Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Go Giver Influencers Facebook Live Show. Today's episode is Influential Smart Calling. And, have you ever heard people talk about that outbound marketing, and especially using the telephone, is dead? It's no longer applicable in today's business world. You hear it all the time, but let me tell you two things that are alive and well: outbound marketing and utilizing the telephone. Now, the telephone to many can be scary. We're human, and it can be scary. But if you do it right, it's not nearly as scary as it is for many, because if you're doing it correctly, it's simply a natural extension of yourself and allows you to connect with people on a human level and see if there's more to discuss and more to follow up and follow through with and take it to the next level. It also allows you to really utilize your time in a beneficial, constructive way. But like any kind of selling, it's always important to remember that it's never about you. It's about the other person. So when you can take your focus off yourself and focus on them, that's the degree that you'll feel more comfortable, because it's not about you, it's about them. You'll feel more comfortable, and you'll also be a lot more effective. So I'm often asked by people about the telephone, and I love talking about telephone prospecting. It's something I started out doing, and I can't say I always enjoyed it. Had I had this gentleman's information back then, I'd have enjoyed it a lot more, but I got good at it, and it was something that I found to be beneficial. But here's something I do every single discussion on this topic, whether it's on stage and during a Q&A or during a one-on-one conversation. When someone asks me about utilizing the telephone effectively, I say, you have absolutely got to, and I wrote this down because I want to remember the exact words I say, truly master this aspect of business, you've got to subscribe to everything by this person you're about to meet. Today's guest is not only a dear friend of mine, but he's really my go-to person in terms of everything teleselling or doing business by phone. He has been for a long time. I'm a huge fan. For the last 30 years, Art Subcheck has helped people say the right things to get through, get in, and sell, primarily using the telephone. He does this through his speaking, training, many books, audios, videos, online courses, his coaching group, email tips, smart calling blog, and his Art of Sales podcast. His flagship book, Smart Calling: How to Eliminate the Fear, Failure, and Rejection from Cold Calling, one of my all-time favorites. It's that good. Hit #1 on Amazon in the sales category its very first day. And the process he teaches in the book is used worldwide to help salespeople prospect successfully without cold calling, air quotes, and we'll explain why that is. Visit smart-calling.com to get the book. You can see some of the great testimonial endorsements on there. Art's main website is businessbyphone.com. You can visit freesalesbook.com to get his book, How to Place the Successful Sales and Prospecting Call. You can get that for free. You just pay for the shipping. And URLs for his many resources, and there are so many of them. They'll be posted throughout the program by our very own Kathy Tajanel. Welcome, Art.
Bob, thank you so much. I think I'm just going to drop the mic and leave now, because I don't know how I could top everything that you just said about me.
Well, it is from the heart, my friend. And we've known each other now for, I don't know how many years, but you've always just done just a great job.
Well, and again, thank you. And back at you, my friend, because as if people don't know this, because I'm sure they do, because they follow you, but you are the embodiment of everything that you write about in your Go Giver series, because you truly are one of the nicest individuals I know. And I always tell people, every time I speak with you, I force myself to go out and be a better human being, because that's what I feel like after speaking with you. So again, it is such a pleasure to be on your show today.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That means a lot to me. On this show, we love to hear the backstories of people. So you've committed yourself really to sharing why the telephone is an important and valuable business tool, how to utilize it correctly. So why did you get into this particular field? How did it actually happen for you?
Well, like a lot of people, what I'm doing now wasn't something that I set out to do when I first graduated from college. I actually wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, but I thought, well, maybe I'll go out and get a corporate job. So I had a number of job offers, and I'd always done sales all throughout high school and college. And I took a sales position with the old AT&T. And you were probably just a youngster at the time, but you might remember when there was just one phone company, and that was AT&T selling long distance. So I had a position with them at something that was called the Bell System Telemarketing Center. And what we were doing, sales reps, they called them telemarketing sales specialists, when telemarketing was not a bad word way back in the day. Matter of fact, they promoted it. If you remember that, there were commercials. And what the Bell System was doing was trying to get people to use more of their long distance, because that was the only choice you had. You had to use theirs. And they figured out the only way to get people to do that is to come up with some applications to show them how they could benefit by doing it. So they trained us in the art and the science of inside sales. So they didn't call it that. They called it telemarketing. So we were working with companies on how they could implement telemarketing, business to business inside sales, at the same time selling the Bell System services. So after about a year where I was doing very well, of course, the entrepreneurial bug was still there. I'm figuring out, how can I do this on my own? So after, actually, it was even less than a year, myself and another guy left, and we formed our own consulting firm at the ripe old age of about 23. And I thought that, this phone sales thing probably has a chance of catching on and being sustaining. And I think I made a pretty good choice, but there was no magic there. That's how it happened.
Well, so you've been doing this for a long, long, long time now. Have you seen an evolution in terms of the concept of teleselling, especially as technology has become so advanced and so prevalent?
Yeah, I think what's happened is that over the years, telemarketing has evolved into telesales, and what it is today is inside sales. And then there are different offshoots of that: business development, sales development, but essentially it's prospecting and sales over the phone and using some other forms of media that we'll talk about. But again, way back when, somebody might have just thrown somebody in a corner, handed them a phone and a phone book. Might have to explain that to some of your young
right, exactly, yeah.
and said, hey, go make some phone calls. Well, of course, it's evolved today to the point where technology has been pretty amazing as far as a tool, or all the tools available to us that allows us to do some amazing things without ever leaving our office. It's really bridged the gap that was there when we were just using the phone and we didn't have all these other forms of information available to us with just a couple mouse clicks. And we didn't have mice, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Interestingly, it sort of seems like it's provided a false crutch to people, though, who now think, okay, there's all this technology, there's social media. I never have to, I can just post a bunch of great content and wait for the phone to ring or wait for someone to email me and say what have you. But that's really not the case, is it?
Well, that's the great lie that's perpetuated by people that are selling the training programs on how to do that. And there's all kinds of shiny objects out there that cater to the people who would rather not pick up the phone. Now, granted, content marketing and social selling, and I'm not even sure what the definition of that is, but those are all complements that are really designed ultimately to take everything offline and get somebody on the phone so we can have a conversation.
It's not an either or, it's an and.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If you want to really start an argument, go post "cold calling is dead," your thoughts on LinkedIn. And now you're going to start this big conversation or discussion. And the thing is, like you said, it's not either or. One thing I will agree is that cold is dead. There's no reason to ever, I know we're going to talk about that, but there's no reason to ever place a cold call with all of the information and other tools available to us today. But you're right. technology can be a crutch for people because they think that they can send out emails and do contact marketing and sit there and wait for the phone to ring. And if you ask people that have done that and they've done it at the expense of actually picking up the phone and talking to people, many of them have starved and they've come back to what still works. And that is the most effective way to communicate, which is a human talking to a human in real time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let's, you touched upon it for a second. Cold calling, as we think of cold call, smiling and dialing, I think we used to call it, as I, remember, but that's cold calling, but that's the opposite of what? Of what kind of calling?
That's the opposite. That's a good setup. That's the opposite of smart calling. So cold calling, I define as picking up the phone, calling somebody that you don't know, maybe just calling from a cold list that was compiled, and giving everybody the same pitch without knowing anything about them and just trying to sell them what you want to sell them. Now, of course, today, when we're bombarded with, the latest figure I saw was something like 4,000 messages per day through a variety of different mediums, we have to ignore all but a tiny fraction of them. Now, we have no time at all for somebody who's going to contact us. And if they don't know anything about us, try to pitch us. Of course, we don't have time for that. Of course, we're going to delete that voicemail. We're going to get rid of that email, even if we did happen to open it. So the alternative is smart calling, which I came up with the term in the book probably about, I think, 8 years ago. And I had been teaching it forever. And it's really not rocket science, Bob. And you've been doing it forever as well. It's caring. It's caring enough to know something about the person and the organization that I'm calling into so that I can craft and tailor a message that's customized to what is going on in their world and be relevant to what's going on with them, which is all they care about, right? As opposed to pitching what I want to sell. And really, sales hasn't changed that much. Humans are still humans. I think back in the day, we got away with a lot more simply because people weren't bombarded with as many messages as they are today. But people are busier than ever, not necessarily more productive, but busier than ever. And again, hit with more communication, which means they have to ignore more communication.
And I think they expect you now to know something about them. The day of ever calling someone and say, so what is it you actually do? That is over. I know I just saw you. I don't know if anybody else could see you. I saw you cringe, and I cringe when I think about it. And I can't tell you how often I'm still asked that when someone calls. Yeah. But here's also on the good side, Art, where technology really shines. Because it used to be, I remember the days, when I was a young kid and I was going out to look for a job with companies, and Dad said, well, go to the library, the town library, and look them up so you know what you're talking about when you call that, right? Well, Now, of course, our library is right in front of us. There's no way you can't learn enough information to make a smart call these days, right?
Well, you can if you're lazy, right? If you don't care, or if you don't know where to look, and not knowing where to look is a function of being lazy and not caring.
Right. So, okay, let's take one of the elephants in the room, if you will, when you talk to somebody about how valuable calling still is. But Bob, or, I'm sure, but Art, they're never there when I call. It's always voicemail. How am I supposed to get to somebody?
Well, there is no doubt that it is more challenging than ever to get to people. And part of that is because, again, of all the messages we're receiving, I'll blame some of it also on the robocalls that we're receiving, the scammers, the phishers, all of which should be locked up as far as I'm concerned. So what do? Well, we have to do the same thing that anybody does in any industry when there are changes. And when technology provides us with some alternatives, some different things that we can do. So first of all, the notion that nobody ever picks up their phone, anytime somebody uses an absolute as it relates to sales and marketing. I always have to dismiss, and I use an absolute there. I dismiss their credibility, because normally what they're doing is they're either ignorant, they're living in a bubble, or they're trying to sell something that is self-serving. Okay. Right. So there, as we all know, people do still pick up the phone. I've got an entire Facebook community and an entire client list of people who are benefiting from that. The American Association of Inside Sales People, American AAISP, American Association of Inside Sales Professionals is bigger than it's ever been. It's growing every year with people who are picking up the phone and talking to people every single day. Now, are more calls than ever going to voicemail? Yeah, absolutely. I do it. You probably do it as well. However, I'm still answering the phone. I'm looking at caller ID and I'm seeing, does this look like something that could be interesting? I'll still pick up the phone. And part of it is because, as we'll talk about later, I record phone calls. Gives me great material. And there's some entertainment value there too, as well. So what do we have to do? We've got to be better at crafting our messages so that we are ensuring that every time we have a message, that it is delivering some potential, some possible value. It's piquing curiosity and it's creating questions in somebody's mind that they want the answer to. And in addition to that, what we want to do is ensure that we're using the other methodologies available to us, both with new technology and old technology. New technology being LinkedIn. Some people are using texting, and that one, for me, I mean, you really got to be careful with that. Texting is kind of like when cell phones weren't as acceptable to use when you're calling somebody up. But for some people, that's the way that their acceptable way of communicating. Old technology is, are you sitting down? Snail mail, sending something to someone. I give you an example here. I don't have to do as much prospecting as I used to, but I do it to remain sharp, or when I see there's somebody that I really, really want to work with. So I received a note, actually a text from a friend of mine. And she said, hey, I sat next to this guy on a plane, and they are a big company. They do most of their business by phone, and you might want to contact them. I just mentioned your name, but it wasn't by any means a referral. The guy said, hey, I want to talk to you. So what I did was I went through a process. I sent him a copy of one of my books, Smart Calling, and I just put a note in it. And I said, I understand you do quite a bit of business by phone. A mutual contact suggested that I reach out to you. I sent him a book. I didn't ask for anything. So following the Go Giver way, I'm just providing some value. And also what that was likely doing in his mind, and as it did, as I found out, is that it creates some curiosity. I mean, who does that? Now, somebody else might say, well, yeah, of course, you're an author. Of course, Bob, you've got 100 books. You can send them your book. Well, how about if you send somebody else's book? And it doesn't need to be a book. It could be a postcard. It could be a letter, or it could be email. I teach an entire process on things to send even before you place a phone call, if that's what you do. It's not always required.
Right.
So then what did I do after that? I made the phone call, and I left I reached voicemail. So what did I say on voicemail? Well, I referenced the fact that we had a mutual connection. I referenced the fact that I knew something about him. I did my research. I had a possible value proposition. And I won't get into the industry, but it was something that created curiosity in his mind. And I told him that I would be calling him back. I said, if you would like to reach me, here's my phone number. And I said, I'll send you an email as well. So I sent him an email, and people say, what should go in the email? Exactly the same message I just gave him on the voicemail. And then I used another piece of technology. I sent a LinkedIn connection saying, hey, I just left you a voicemail. So there we go. So nobody picks up their phone anymore. I still hadn't spoken with that person yet. Now, what happened? He gave me a call back within 5 minutes of me leaving the voicemail. Now, is this going to happen every time? No. If they do call back, bonus. Okay. So there were a lot of steps there, but you know what? Every single piece of communication there had some possible value.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And, again, you took the steps that most people won't take, which says, if you want the results, take the steps that your competitors aren't going to take. And I love how again, you say it's not just one thing. Just because you're a telephone expert, but that doesn't mean you're going to say, well, nothing else is good. It just means other things are complementary with that. Let's do a kind of generic look at the characteristics, Art, of a good voicemail message that you might leave for someone.
A good voicemail message is essentially the same as a good opening statement when you're going to get a person on the phone live. And really, there shouldn't be any difference there other than the ending of the voicemail, which is going to say that I will give you a call back if you'd like to reach me. In the meantime, here's my phone number. All right. So if you'd like, I got to go through the whole process because it starts before you ever pick up the phone.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to do that?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, the first thing we need to do is make sure that we're calling the right people, because in so many cases, I mean, you get them, I get them. Somebody calls me, and there's absolutely no reason why they should be calling me, because I would never be a prospect for what they're selling. And this goes for email prospecting as well. And I get so many of these. Somebody sent me an email the other day, and they're trying to sell me some manufacturing quality control course. And it was a big pitch. And it says, well, they lied, because they said, we were at your site and we see that you would be interested in this. Is like, no, of course it wouldn't. So again, today there's absolutely no reason not to gather intelligence, both for building your list and then doing your research. And by the way, I partnered with one of the greatest sales intel gurus out there. His name's Sam Richter. I think you know Sam. He's a fellow
Sam is fantastic. Great guy, and what a pro.
Oh my God, so amazing. Anyway, he came out with a search engine where he really simplified all the ninja stuff that he teaches people to do. I mean, when he does it, I'm just in awe, and I've seen his presentation like 20 times. But then here's what he did that is absolutely amazing, and I knew I had to be part of it. He came up with this sales intel search engine where it really simplifies how to get information. And if anybody's interested in that, can I share the URL?
Yeah, Kathy, I guarantee, is posting it right now as we're speaking.
Oh, perfect.
But sure, go ahead.
Yeah, it's smartcallingintel.com, smartcallingintel.com. So anyway, I've got that up. I use that every day. I used it 3 times this morning for prospects that I'm going to be talking to later this afternoon, and found out some amazing information. And really what it does is helps you, it simplifies your search process. So what might take you 10 minutes to do on LinkedIn and Google, you can do in about 10 seconds. And by the way, that blows away some of the objection that I'll hear from some old school smile and dial sales managers that will say, oh, we don't have time to do research. We need to be on the phone. Well, I guarantee you 100% of the time that your calls are going to be better when you do research than if you don't. Mm-hmm. Because if you just call somebody up, give everybody the same pitch, like you said before, people expect you to know something about them. You should never hear from somebody, like I say all the time to people that call me, do you know what we do here?
I want to say that, I've got to admit, I don't do that, but I want to a lot of times, because I know, especially when they say, we help companies like yours too. And yeah. I just want to say, oh, really? Really? And what exactly do companies like? But I don't, by the way, I don't. You do, because you record these a lot of times. Well, I have no reason to do it, and I don't, want to make the person feel bad. But
you're a nicer guy than I am. So the next step after we've done all that, I plug all this into my smart calling process. So the smart calling process is this. Now, we're not quite done yet gathering intel. If I'm calling somebody for the first time, another step is actually calling into a company and doing some social engineering. And social engineering is a term popularized by computer hackers back in the 90s, where they call into companies and they ask questions. And there was an entire book written about this by a computer hacker. I think he wrote it when he was in prison. His name's Kevin Mitnick. It's called The Art of Deception. And he talks about just simply calling into companies and asking questions, and they would give him things like passwords, and unbelievable. Anyway, I've adapted social engineering for positive, helpful purposes, which is simply, for example, we'll call into a sales department, because everybody knows salespeople like to talk, right? So I'll call in, and my social engineering process is very simply this. I'll identify myself. Hey, Art Subcheck here with Business by Phone. First of all, I'll let you know I'm not a prospect for you, but what I'm calling for may be able to probably help you in the future. I'm going to be speaking to your VP of Sales, Bob Burg, and I want to make sure I'm prepared when I do. There's probably some information you could help me with. I know that you guys do prospecting and you call it cold calling in some of the job postings I've seen. And then I'll go into questions. Now, people might say, well, that's kind of involved. Yeah, but the information I'm now possibly going to get is going to be golden if they're telling me that, well, yeah, we do it, but we're not very well trained in it, and everybody hates to do it, and we've got these quotas, and I'm gathering all this information, and I can plug some of that into my interest creating opening or my voicemail message. So now I take all of that and I'm going to put it into my smart calling process. So the process goes like this: introduction, first name, last name, and company. Then I like to share what I call the connection. The connection could be anything I know about you. It could be as minor as congratulating you on something that I saw in your LinkedIn profile, something that you tweeted out, something, just anything I know about you, or it could be more qualitative. It could be, Bob, I understand that one of your major initiatives for the second quarter this year is new business development. Okay, so boom, what have I done there? I've set myself apart from every other salesperson out there. Now, again, I'm just doing this on a voicemail. I would say exactly the same thing if I have them live. Next step in the process is my possible value proposition. I call it the PVP. Some people call it value statement. I call it possible because we don't know if it's really going to be a value until we speak with them, but we can surmise it's going to be of some value. And I'm going to tailor this as well. And I've got an entire formula for this, but I'll just kind of boil it down. Bob, I work with companies who have new business initiatives and who have sales teams who are tasked with placing prospecting calls, but maybe are a little reluctant to do it. We show them a proven process that provides them with confidence and success when they implement it. Matter of fact, one of our most recent clients opened up 20 new accounts in the first week. That was more than they opened up in the previous month. So now that was my possible value proposition. I tailor it to your situation. And then the last part is the ending, where I'm not going to say, I want to take 20 minutes of your time, or I want to set up a meeting with you. All I'm going to say here is, I want to ask you a couple questions. So if I were on voicemail, I would say, and really, Bob, just like to ask you a few questions to see if it might be worth our while to have a further conversation. I will call you on Friday morning. If you'd like to reach me in the meantime, here's my number. I'll send you an email as well. And if I were doing this live, I would end with, again, and briefly, if I reached you at a good time, I'd like to ask you a couple questions, see if it might be worth our while to have a further conversation. Now, somebody might say, that's a lot of words. Well, yes. However, it wasn't too long, because here's too long. Now, of course, we'd have some give and take there if we were speaking live, right? I would pause. But here's the thing about too long. Too long isn't a function of too many words. Too long is a function of too boring.
Right.
So when I'm working with sales reps, when I go in and do workshops, I get out my scalpel and we do microsurgery, because a word here or there can make the difference. And when we're really fine tuning these, I'm able to many times take out 2 or 3 words or revise a sentence and make it stronger by eliminating a few words. So I want to be stacking the value on with each one. So with each sentence, you're going, okay. And ultimately, the goal of a great voicemail, here it is. Ready for this? Leave a question in their mind that they want the answer to. So I want them thinking, well, how's he do that? Well, yeah, we have a new business initiative. Yeah, I've got sales reps that aren't making enough calls. Yeah, they're not confident doing it. How's he do that? And that's the question. Now, are they going to call back? Probably not. Here's what I tell salespeople all the time. Lower your bar of expectation for getting calls back. People call me all the time and they'll say, geez, I'm not getting my phone calls returned. Well, of course you're probably not. if you're doing prospecting. If you are, again, bonus. But we want to pave the way for your next touch, whether it be that email, the LinkedIn connection, your next phone call. If that comes in and they see Business by Phone, Art Subcheck on caller ID, they might pick it up. Or if they're so moved, like the guy was yesterday, they might pick up the phone and call you back. And if they do, hey, that's great.
Mhm. This is such a wonderful, professional, and effective way to approach doing business by phone. Now, bad news here is we're like just about out of time, and I have so many more questions and talking points I want to discuss. So I hope you'll come back another time and we can finish those up.
Absolutely. Anytime, Bob.
But I do want you to share a story. It's actually one of my favorite stories from you that was not about the telephone. You were shopping. I think it was in your last book. I've read all your books and I have a whole notebook of all your newsletters I used to get and the whole thing. But I'm pretty sure I read this in your last book. But it was, you were in a furniture store because you were getting some office furniture. And as I recall, it was kind of more expensive than what you wanted. And so many people, when you're selling on the phone, selling anywhere, they undervalue themselves. They understand they're kind of selling a commodity. And sometimes they lower their expectations. They start trying to discount price instead of selling on value. But this particular salesperson of yours, I thought approached it so wonderfully. You know what I'm talking about? And can you share that?
Yeah. Actually, I do recall when it was about this beautiful desk that I'm sitting at right now.
Really?
Actually,
Okay.
the whole thing.
Let's
so what happened was, and let me set it up. He actually did a great job up to this point, and he had asked me a bunch of questions. What did I want? How was I going to use this desk? And what else did I need? And I told him I needed a credenza, and how was I going to use it? And I said I shoot videos, I do audio, I have a lot of books, and he showed me the perfect piece. And of course it was perfect because I told him exactly what I was looking for as a result of his question. So he did everything right up to this point. Mm-hmm. Then when he gave me the price, it was, how we go in, we're going to buy something. We might have a certain price tag in mind, despite the fact that it was what I really wanted. I really hadn't known what high grade office furniture was going for. So he gave me the price and I was kind of like, I was floored. And then I'm going, okay, but as we often do, now we start trying to rationalize, but I'm still thinking, man, I can get it cheaper. I can go down the street, and I'm telling him that. I'm not giving him an ironclad, I'm not going to buy it. But here's what he said. And this was the clincher. He said, Art, we've agreed that this is exactly what you want. And then what he did was he repeated my words, right? People can object to what you say as a salesperson. They'll never object to what they say. So he repeated my words. Then he said, let's do this. Let's travel out a couple of years in the future here after you've used it for all those things that you said you're going to use it for. If you did that right now, 2 years from now, would you say that you made a good decision after you forgot about how much you paid for it today? So I gave him my credit card. And there was so much going on in that. I mean, one, of course, again, he did everything right up to that point because that's what selling value is all about. Mm-hmm. I mean, I always say the first person that needs to be sold on value is the salesperson, because if you're not, you need to go sell something else. Mm-hmm. You've got to be sold. But by the same token, what we can't have is arrogance of price. Arrogance of price is, well, that's my price, and go screw you if you don't think that it's worth that. No, see, we cannot engineer value in; they can only extract it out. So we have to find out, what do they value? So he found out exactly what I valued. Then he presented it to me. But then what he did at the end, when I'm still a little bit hesitant, is that he used this other ninja technique, which is he got me in my mind to take ownership already. And he extrapolated out into the future, because we'll never buy anything until we can see ourselves already going there in our mind's eye. So he got me to travel there. Then he asked me what that was like. And then once I knew what it was like, I didn't want to give it back. It's kind of like the old puppy dog clothes, right?
So let me ask you the question.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that.
Are you enjoying it? Was it a good decision?
Oh, well, yeah, here it is. I'm still using it. I love it.
So he did what a professional salesperson does. He helped you to make the decision you wanted to make, and you enjoyed the benefits of it.
Yeah. And he was right. I don't remember what I paid for it.
Art Subcheck is the man I consider to be the expert on utilizing the telephone as a way to get through, get in, and sell correctly and effectively. He has so many resources, his training, his many books, audios, videos, online courses, coaching group, emails. I subscribe to all Art stuff, and I just, it's always so valuable. Check out the resources in the discussion window. Kathy's been posting them throughout the entire show. And if you're watching this on the replay, it's down below. Now, Art's flagship book is Smart Calling: How to Eliminate Fear, Failure, and Rejection from Cold Calling. Absolutely, positively should be in your library. Visit smart-calling.com for that. His main website is businessbyphone.com. You can also visit freesalesbook.com to get his book, How to Place the Successful Sales and Prospecting Call. You can get that for free right now. You just pay for the shipping. And be sure and join his Facebook community. I'm part of it. Wonderful information. Join that as well. Well, that is it from here. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. Same bat time, same bat channel. Art, you have paved the way, my friend and brother. Thank you for all you do.
Bob, thank you. I can't thank you enough. And I know we just scratched the surface here, and would love to be back. And let me encourage people out there, if they don't have all of your books, particularly the main Go Giver and then the Go Giver Influencer, because that's the foundation for everything I teach. So after you have that mindset, then my stuff is pretty much the mechanics, the techniques, but you got to have the mindset that Bob teaches.
Wow, thank you. I greatly appreciate that. Art, be well. We'll have you back on the show soon. Can't wait. Until next time, everyone, I'm Bob Burg, wishing you a great day and a fantastic week.